Thank you very much for joining our 14th dialogue hosted by Global Health Innovation Policy Program. My name is Hiromi Murakami of GHIPP, Global Health Innovation Policy Program at GRIPS, facilitating this dialogue series. We are so honored to welcome such a distinguished guest today from Silicon Valley, Professor Vivek Wadhwa, who is an entrepreneur, academia, author, and distinguished speaker. And we're so excited to hear his vision and how health innovations will change how we deal with pandemic or future health threat. With that, I'd like to pass the microphone to Dr. Wadhwa. We very much appreciate you taking time for us. It's all yours.
Talking to all of you folks. I'm going to give you a grand tour of some of the technology advances that are really going to transform humanity. And I'm going to try to put in the context of COVID, because a lot of bad came from COVID. It was 99% bad, but there was also some good that came from it. We've accelerated the pace of progress, and we may now be able to, to help millions of people and do some wonderful things because of this. So let me start my presentation and walk you through some of these advances. And let's see if I can get the technology over here working. All right, so can you see my screen right now? I'll assume you can. First of all, look at this chart, exponentials. We're literally sick of seeing exponential charts. But this is how technology is advancing, and we've learned what exponentials mean the hard way, because it took thousands of years to go from pottery to agriculture to the plow. Over the last 100 years, we've had advance after advance after advance. Technology is advancing exponentially. In the computing field, we have something called Moore's law, which we've observed that the computing power of our devices, of our computers, seems to be doubling every year or two. And these things are becoming more powerful. So my smartphone, which I just dropped, has more computing power than the Cray supercomputers of yesteryear. It's more powerful than 100 supercomputers. And you know something? It isn't just computing that's advancing exponentially. It is everything that computing touches. Everything that becomes information-based starts advancing exponentially. So we have everything from artificial intelligence to robotics to sensors, networks, digital medicine, genomics, all advancing exponentially. And here is what we saw happen when this pandemic broke out. That within 48 hours of getting the genomic sequence of the coronavirus, one of the leading companies that was doing research with messenger RNA, Moderna, was able to develop a vaccine within 48 hours. All they needed was the data to know what to target, and they were able to now build it on top of their mRNA platform. They identified the spike protein. Over the past 60 years, scientists have been doing research on delivering molecules via the mRNA platform. So they employed that platform for the first time, and we made exponential progress as a result of that. Now, it took many months to test that platform. And hopefully we're going to accelerate progress on that front as well, on being able to test vaccines, because my fear is that even if this virus was not genetically engineered by China, the next pandemic could be genetically engineered not only by China, but by any of the rogue regimes we have abroad. Because technology has globalized, technology has democratized. The tools that are available to one government are available to all governments now. The tools that are available to large research labs are available to rogue scientists right now. So we need to accelerate our defense mechanisms and now also accelerate the process of testing vaccines. And I'm going to talk more about this in this presentation. With that, now let's talk about medicine, because this is what I was requested to talk about in this lecture. Let's look at what's happened in medicine. First of all, think of Apple. What's Apple? Apple makes smartphones, right? But did you know that Apple now has become a medical device manufacturer? Well, it has. The Apple Watch is a medical device. Right now, it provides some readings of your heartbeat and your blood. But soon they're going to be adding more and more sensors to it so that it starts monitoring you 24/7. Because what Apple and the rest of the technology industry has realized is that the next big frontier for them, the next multi-trillion-dollar industry that they can expand into, is medicine. Because here's what's happening. Medicine is becoming digital. Medicine is becoming an information technology. How is that happening? With the sensor data. Our smartphones have more advanced sensors on them than would have fitted into an entire office building just 30 or 40 years ago. They have gyroscopes, they have motion sensors, they have humidity sensors in some types of phones. They have all sorts of advanced sensors. The cameras on these phones are bigger, these tiny cameras are more advanced than the giant cameras that the film studios had. So the sensors have gotten smaller, faster, and cheaper. And now we have digitized medical data. We have telemedicine that's become normal. So soon, just like we do home health monitoring, monitoring, in America, we have, for example, ADT, which provides monitoring of your houses. Soon we will have technology companies monitoring our body 24/7 and alerting us if we're about to get sick. This is the ambition of the technology industry. So medicine has become an information technology, and the technology industry is now looking at this multi-trillion-dollar market. Now, it's not only the sensor data, it's all sorts of other data that the technology industry is gathering. That we are now gathering data on everything because these devices that we carry in our pockets, the smartphones, they can also measure our emotions. By listening to our voice, they can detect whether we're depressed, whether we're happy, whether we're sad. By looking at our movements, these devices have movement sensors in them. They can now detect what the state of our health is. And then we have apps, which women use for fertility. There are apps that we use to measure our walking habits. There are all sorts of apps on these phones. The technology industry is gathering all of these data. So they're gathering massive, massive amounts of information about us. This is not all good. I'm not saying that what the technology industry is doing is good, or that they should be gathering this type of information about us. But the fact is that this is happening globally. So we need to put restrictions on the technology industry. We need to make some of the data private. But regardless of what we do there, the fact is that with these data now, the technology companies are developing the ability to develop digital doctors. They're using machine learning or artificial intelligence to analyze all this information and create digital doctors. By the end of this decade, by 2030, possibly a few years sooner than that, the capability of machine learning algorithms, artificial intelligence, to use all of this data that the technology industry has been gathering will make them more capable than doctors are of diagnosing disease. Think about what I just said, that within the next few years, 5, 7, 8, 9 years, our computers will be more competent than doctors are at being able to diagnose our disease. So there will still be a role for our doctors because you still have to interpret the data, just like you have, for tax accounting, you have Excel spreadsheets and you have all sorts of computer-based tools. You still have tax accountants who can interpret the data. So the doctors will still have a role, but what they do today in analyzing the data will be done by machines because of the massive amounts of data. Because what artificial intelligence does, what machine learning does, is to recognize patterns. There's no magic in artificial intelligence. It's simply pattern recognition. That the way these AI-based technologies work is that you create a model for what you think is in the information. You give the system all sorts of examples of the data, and then the system learns to be able to recognize that according to the model you created. This is what artificial intelligence is. So this is what the technology industry is doing with all of these data, that they've created models, they're feeding them into their machine learning algorithms, and they're developing the capability of analyzing these data and understanding what's going on here. So soon, AI will exceed the capabilities of human doctors. And the next set of breakthroughs is that we are soon going to be able to cure almost every disease using technology. Now, that's another big statement I just made. Curing every disease using technology. Well, there may be a few diseases which take longer to cure than others, but a lot of the common diseases will be cured and treated by technology. And I'm going to give you some examples of this. And I'm going to get into a little bit of depth about cancer, about the project that I'm helping out with in India to cure cancer using data. First of all, let me ask you a question. What is disease? Many of you who are watching this are medical experts. Would you know that the way you recognize disease is through symptoms, right? That you have a fever, you have a stomach ache, you have rashes. There are a number of symptoms that you recognize to know that something is wrong with the body, number one. And then disease is caused by genes and proteins. In Western medicine, the drugs simply target the symptoms. They simply try to address the symptoms. So we take painkillers, we take suppressants for cough and so on. So what we're doing is we're suppressing the symptoms rather than curing the disease. I don't think that's a very good way of doing things. I believe in holistic health, of trying to cure the person versus just treating the symptoms. But that is how the system works today. Now, if you look at it from a technology point of view, you come up with a different picture here. Because if you think about it, there are a few hundred symptoms. One study that I'm showing you over here identified 322 major symptoms between roughly 4,000 diseases. In all, there are probably 5,000 or 6,000 diseases in the world. There are probably 500 symptoms in the world, right? So because how many diseases could you possibly have? How many symptoms can you possibly have? If you look at it as a data scientist, if you look at this as a computing expert, which is what I am, I'm a computer expert. I mean, I'm not a doctor. But if you look at it from that perspective, you're only talking about 150,000 connections, which is nothing. I mean, you could analyze that on an Excel spreadsheet. It's not that simple. But the fact is that there are a finite number of connections between the symptoms and the disease. It's a data problem. All right, so now let's look into one of the deadliest diseases. And this one is very near and dear to my heart because I lost my beloved wife. She was everything to me. My wife, Tavinda, I lost her to cancer about 2.5 years ago. And I've made it my life's mission to do what I can to cure cancer. That's a big, bold statement I'm making, curing cancer. It's ridiculous that I would talk about curing cancer. But I believe that we can cure cancer because this is what I've been researching. This is what I teach. And I know how technologies are advancing and converging and what is possible. So let's talk about this. What is cancer? As most of you know, cancer is caused by DNA mutations. And every cancer is different. Even though we classify cancers by the region of the body where it occurs, so you have a lung cancer, you have a brain cancer, you have a blood cancer. The fact is that every cancer is different. There are as many types of cancer as there are people, because every genetic mutation is different. So far, we have not had the ability to recognize it and to be able to do anything about it. But what's happening thanks to technology, is that the cost of sequencing tumors has dropped exponentially. The first human genome was sequenced in the year 2000. It cost about $3 billion to sequence the first human genome. What cost $3 billion in the year 2000? In 2021, it costs less than $500. In China, you can get it done for less than $300 now, I believe. I don't know what it is in Japan, but it's probably not more than $1,000, right? That's what genomic sequencing costs, which means that we're now getting data. We're now able to capture data at an unprecedented rate. But here's what the problem is with these data, that it is like this diagram I'm showing you, that scientists all over the world have different data on different tumors. It's like looking at the elephant. It's like the sages looking at the elephant. So you have one person who looks at one part of the elephant and they conclude one thing. Another one looks at another part of the elephant. This is what it's been like in trying to cure cancer so far, that you have experts in each field looking only into their field. They don't look at the whole picture. Why? Because they don't have the information, or if they have the information, it is too broad and too big to understand. This is why I'm saying that computer technology is the key over here. Artificial intelligence, machine learning is the key to being able to look at the whole picture, because human beings can only manage so much information. The reason why we are specialists is because they have to learn a lot about their fields of, their fields, and they specialize in those fields. But to cure cancer, to cure any disease, you have to look at the entire picture. So this is a job for artificial intelligence. All right. So now let me give you another data point that, I talked about why it took so long to test the vaccines for COVID. Because the way the medical system works right now is that we experiment on patients. It's bizarre that the human beings are the guinea pigs. When patients have cancer, doctors do experiments on them. Clinical trials that are done by the medical industry, they make the patient the guinea pig. They take massive doses of their medicine, enough to get them regulatory approval, FDA approval, or other, if you're depending which country and whatever the regulatory body is there, they give them massive doses of that chemical to get approval, even though it may not be good for the patient. But that's how it works. But today we have the ability to create 3D organoids. You can literally take a sample of the tumor, take it into the lab, and create three-dimensional living organisms from it and test drugs on it. The success rate of cancer trials is less than 5%. We only read about the successful ones, but 19 out of 20 clinical trials absolutely fail and we never hear about them. When you're able to test drugs on organoids, you have right now one company that I know, Sengen, which is based in Seattle in the United States, says that their accuracy rate of being able to test different drugs on a tumor is greater than 70%. I believe that over the next 5 years or so, we will improve the technology so that the accuracy rate is 98, 99%. So rather than making the human beings the guinea pigs, we will now be able to test on organoids and test very accurately. Again, there are labs all over the world that are doing this. Many of you probably have these within your labs as well, but it's not being used on a big scale. It's being used only in small experiments. I believe that this is the best way of of testing these treatments, not these clinical trials, not the horrible techniques we use right now. This technology is advancing, and it could make a huge difference to patient treatment. And then here's some more advances. We can now edit genes. Just like Word documents, you can now use CRISPR, and CRISPR is advancing exponentially. We can now start looking into editing defective genes. As the technology advances more, as we gather more and more data, these genetic engineering technologies will become like playing God. This is why I have the diagram over there, because what CRISPR lets you do is to play God with the human body. I worry about it because I know that the Chinese are doing all sorts of crazy experiments with all sorts of different animals and human beings on CRISPR. It's dangerous. We need to limit what we do with CRISPR. But when used correctly, it could be a silver bullet. It could be amazing what is possible with CRISPR. And then there are all sorts of gene and cell therapies. It's incredible what you can do with these therapies, that you can essentially take out the cells. You can now test. You can now create vaccines in the lab. You can now create all sorts of treatments in the lab, and then you can move them back into the human being and start treating individual cancers using them. Here's what the problem is with these technologies. These are only for the rich because they cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, often up to $1 million to use these therapies. What is needed is inexpensive treatments, such as in India, for example, if you look at Aravind Eye Clinic, Aravind does cataract surgeries for $10 or $20 for practically nothing. What would cost tens of thousands of dollars in the United States or thousands of dollars in Japan can be done for practically nothing by that. That's what we need to now have with these cell therapies. All right, so I've been looking into the United States. The United States has been trying to solve cancer because President Biden, when he was the vice president, he lost his son to cancer. And Biden and Obama launched the US Cancer Moonshot in 2016. The trouble is it's going pathetically slow. That it launched in 2016. The goal was to sequence the tumors of genomes of 1 million Americans. And they spent hundreds of millions of dollars on this. And I think it's a joke as to where they are right now. It's nowhere. Because in America, we don't share information. So after I lost my wife, I made it my life's purpose to cure cancer. I got together with the amazing scientists who were helping me and created a grand plan. And I'll tell you more about the grand plan, but I had some you'll see their names on this slide I just put up, some incredible scientists helping me with this thing. And then the question was, what do I do with this grand plan? Because I consider the United States medical system to be corrupt. It's not a healthcare system, it's a sick care system. The entire system is geared towards keeping people sick because there's so much money being made in medicine that it's really not about preventing disease, it's about making money. That's how critical I am about the medical system after having lost my wife to cancer. So, I realized that maybe I should go to India because China, corrupt, evil. I mean, the government is doing all sorts of crazy experiments. There's no way I would want to have anything to do with China. India is where I saw the greatest opportunity because India can do things for a fraction of the cost that the United States does. So I put this grand plan together and I traveled to India. I met Prime Minister Narendra Modi. I found him to be a brilliant, I didn't realize that he would understand the things I was saying and really be so engaged, but he understood it. I also met His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Why the Dalai Lama? Because he is a cancer survivor. And he used a combination of Western and Eastern medicine to cure himself. So it was a wonderful set of meetings. And that led to, so here's what I had proposed, okay? I had proposed that we provide free or low-cost treatment to millions of patients. We sequence the tumors, create 3D organoids like what I talked about. We analyze the full medical history, provide the most advanced chemotherapies, targeted therapies, and immunotherapies to patients. And then we capture all of the data and we open source it to the whole world. This is not done in America because every hospital, every lab, every doctor, every pharma company, it's the same thing in Japan. Everyone hoards the data. Therefore, you can't see the big picture. What I proposed was that we make it available to scientists all over the world. You invite people, scientists all over the world to work together to now cure cancer. This is what my proposal to the Prime Minister was. And then we create the largest biorepository in the world, that we take samples of the tumors and we cryogenically preserve them so that as we develop new therapies and new treatments, and as technologies such as 3D organoids advance, we can now test all of these technologies on those tumors. This is what I proposed. Long story, but what I had promised, what I had told the Prime Minister was that this would create a medical revolution, save tens of millions of lives, and lay the foundation in India for $100 billion medical industry. So the plan ended up reaching some amazing people who were looking to transform India's cancer care system. And their objective was to implement a distributed cancer care network. One of the scientists, Dr. Moni Abraham Kurokos, had published an article in The Lancet about the distributed cancer care network. And in India, one of the greatest philanthropists in the world is Ratan Tata. Ratan Tata's trusted lieutenant, Venkat Ramachandran, decided to make his life's mission to help cancer patients. And they launched a company called Karkinos, which basically would provide comprehensive care across the entire country. That they would now, do early screenings, they would improve the diagnosis, they would provide personalized treatments, and then they would monitor patients right through the life cycle. It was amazing, what they were hoping to do, that they would now provide cancer all over the entire country. That by using technology, by creating a platform on which all of the information was available, even in parts of India where there are no cancer doctors, regular doctors could, help patients because they would have all the knowledge that they wanted on this central repository. It was a brilliant plan. And they asked me to work with them. And I told them it was an honor to be able to work with them because they had such noble goals. And we integrated our plans. The proposal I had made to the Prime Minister of India and to the Dalai Lama became part of Karkinos. So now this is what the ambition of Karkinos is. That within the next 5 to 7 years, they will, basically overtake America's cancer moonshot by a mile. Forget about going to the moon. They're going to end up going to another galaxy compared to what the United States is doing. This is 5 to 10 times more ambitious than America's cancer moonshot. It's going to be done in India. It's being done in India, and Indian philanthropists have already funded this. Ratan Tata and a number of great Indian philanthropists have funded this. This is in high gear right now. By the end of this year, they'll have 10,000 patients helped. By the end of next year, 25,000. And soon they would have helped more than 1 million patients. Will have detailed genomic data, biosamples, patient medical histories. It'll all be tightly secured, anonymized. We're going to have the highest ethical standards, the highest security standards. But the idea is to make it available to researchers all over the world so that they can cure cancer. This is what the goal of Karkinos is. To provide affordable, inexpensive cancer care all over the country, and then to create the platform for curing cancer itself. And I believe India will do it because this is what the missing link is. Now, one of Japan's greatest entrepreneurs, Miki Mikitani of Rakuten, as you folks might know, he lost his father to cancer, and he has had a major initiative to cure cancer, Rakuten Medical. I admire Mickey for what he's doing. He's I've talked to him, a wonderful human being. He has his heart in the right place. So now he is invested in Karkinos, and he's now he's now going to be offering his clinical trial in India. So Japan is going to be part of this world-changing project to cure cancer. And by the way, if any other Japanese scientists want to be involved with this, and if any other global scientists want to be involved with it, go to Karkinos's website and write to them, and propose your project, and there you're going to find that they're amazingly open. It's not like dealing with some of these companies in America where it's all about money, 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 money. No, this is about helping millions of people and curing cancer. This is why I'm working, with these people and doing all I can to help them make this project happen. So why India, of all the places? Because the key to curing cancer is to understand the data, to understanding the correlation between genome and disease and drugs. India can create an abundance of data. That the cancer spectrum in India, Japan, in Asia is different from the West. In the West, all they worry about is Western cancers, where it's different. We're going to now focus on the East as well. And then, the entire system here is geared towards the interests of the pharma companies, that it's all about money, 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 money. India has no industry to protect, therefore it's entirely open. And then you have great philanthropists who want to do good for the world, who are donating their time and their money and doing all they can to make these things happen. And then Eastern medicine. In India, you have Ayurveda. Ayurveda is an incredible form of medicine, holistic medicine, which there's been no research done on. No research, very little research done on. One of the goals of the platform that we're creating is to now be able to test the holistic medicines on this platform. So side by side with Western research, we'll test Eastern research. I'm sure that in Japan, you have some amazing, holistic treatments from the past that aren't being tested. Well, the platform is going to be built in India for that. Then let me give you another example of technology from India, which could do day-to-day monitoring for patients. This is a technology called HealthCube. It's a device that costs about $1,000 that does the same tests that you can do in hospitals. It's basically a platform with sensors on which you can do the most common tests. What does the platform cost? $1,000. Each test costs 20, 30, 50 cents, $1 maybe. And the beauty of it is that you get the results immediately. Watch this video to see how it's being used in the villages of India.
At IDEA, we have evolved the social entrepreneur model, embedding the health cube. We are able to reach out to rural areas, including labor migrants, and offer them a path to proactive wellness. Timely health screening and diagnostics on 32 related tests, including all pathological tests, blood sugar, hemoglobin, blood pressure, and many more issues are diagnosed before they turn into a major illness. We have created an army of village social entrepreneurs who do the health screening at a very nominal cost. We have taken HealthCube to Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Kerala, and Andhra Pradesh, collectively spanning 20 districts and 100 locations. In all these, we have seen a palpable change, healthier people, fewer illnesses, and a general sense of well-being.
That person who was narrating it is another amazing philanthropist, Mrs. Rajashree Birla, one of the greatest philanthropists in India. She too is dedicating her life to helping people. This is the beauty of working in India. Now, by the way, if you're interested in this device, you can bring it to Japan. The company is healthcubed, CUBED.com. You can go to their website, write to them, and import these devices into Japan and start offering inexpensive healthcare all over the country, all over Asia, all over the world. These technologies are available to you right now if you want them. And this product has been in development for many, many years. And they've already done more than 2 million tests with it. Inexpensive, about $1,000. This is what is possible right now. All right, now I'm going to switch gears and talk about another aspect of health. That 88% of the diseases in the developing world are caused by waterborne viruses. 88% of the infectious diseases in the developing world are caused by waterborne viruses. And there's been no major breakthrough in the past 50 or 60 years. What do we have? We have reverse osmosis and UV radiation. That's how you clean water. Pathetic 50-year-old technologies, because you need membranes, you create all sorts of pollutants. One amazing scientist in Chile, and just like with the HealthCube and Karkinos, I've personally been involved with it. This is another scientist I've been helping for the last few years. He said, I'm going to fix this problem because he saw the pain and suffering that was happening in the villages, in the shanty towns of Chile. And he made a basic science breakthrough because he says, because he had been doing work in magnetism and a bunch of fields. And he says, what if I converted the water into plasma back into water? That'll kill everything living in it. When I met him, I said, Alfredo Zolesi is his name. Are you crazy? That's a basic science breakthrough. You will get a Nobel Prize if you do something like that. He said, I already have it. He took me to the shanty town where this was already happening. This is what this device is, PWSS. Watch this video to see how it works. Another basic science breakthrough which could transform humanity.
The plasma water sanitation system takes in a continuous flow of contaminated water and injects it under high pressure into a plasma reaction chamber. As pressure drops inside due to acceleration, the liquid stream transforms into a biphasic gas-liquid flow. An electric field is applied to the biphasic flow, transforming it into non-thermal plasma, destroying all virus and bacteria in the water. As velocity decreases, pressure increases, turning the flow back into liquid, which is then released from the chamber, delivering clean, safe and reliable water in a continuous flow.
So, he's been working on this for about a decade now, and it takes a long time to get basic science, breakthroughs into commercial products. But that's what he did. That he developed an industrial version of this, which was rolled out by the president of Chile into a number of towns and villages in Chile in 2016. And then in Kenya and so on. So these devices were very big then. Just before the pandemic, Airbus came to Alfredo and had him develop a small refrigerator-sized unit. Guess what these devices cost? Right now, they're in the double-digit tens of thousands of dollars, and one device is enough to service an entire village. What does it cost to operate? Almost nothing. It's about 1,000 watts of energy, less energy than a hairdryer, continuous flow, 100% clean water, the cleanest water you could possibly have in terms of killing bacteria and viruses in the water. There's nothing as clean as this in terms of bacteria and viruses. The minerals aren't removed, but the water, most people die from the bacteria and viruses. That's what this device can do. The company is Plasma Waters or AIC. You can Google them and you can visit the website and contact them, because these units are now ready to be industrialized and to be taken all over the world. You can bring them to Japan, you can bring them all over the world. World-changing stuff. Now let me take a detour and show you some more amazing advances. Let's talk about hunger. Well, vertical farms are coming. Soon we'll be, I know there are a lot of them already in Japan, but soon as the cost of energy gets lower and lower, and it'll be almost free within a decade or so, clean energy will be, because energy is also on an exponential path. We'll have vertical farms in which we can grow food. But the same technology that Alfredo had developed for that can also solve one of the big problems of health, is that we're getting sick because of the pollutants in our food, the fertilizers, the pesticides filled with dangerous chemicals. The pesticides are harming us. Well, what Alfredo realized during the pandemic, he talked about one of the good things of COVID. Well, the bad thing was that Alfredo's business stopped. So Airbus was going to take these units all over the world, but the airline industry got into trouble because of COVID. So Alfredo went back into the lab. He says, okay, what else can I do with my technology? He realized that he could make another basic science breakthrough. He could transform agriculture. How could he do that? Well, watch this next slide. How does Mother Nature fertilize the planet? Through lightning. What is lightning? Lightning is the fourth state of matter, plasma. So when plasma goes through water, rain, and oxygen and nitrogen in the air, it creates nitrates, fertilizer. It creates hydrogen peroxide, which is a disinfectant. And it creates these species which cause our plants to get healthier. What Alfredo realized was that using his same technology, he could just flip the switch and have it generate plasma activated water. Just like that, the same devices that I showed you, which cost a few $1,000s, continuous flow, 10 liters a minute is what this can 10 liters a minute using the same energy as a hairdryer, 2 solar panels. He could generate plasma activated water with it. It was almost like a magic discovery. With it now, we can have natural fertilizer, organic fertilizer created from air and oxygen. This is what is air, water, and oxygen. This is what his technology makes possible. Because what happens is that H2O2, hydrogen peroxide, you use it for disinfectants, but when in the right dosage, in the right concentration, what it does is it gets the plants to defend themselves. It's like a vaccine given to a plant. Just like we develop antibodies, they develop protections from it. That's what the H2O2 in the right concentrations in water does. And then you also now have antioxidants, that superfoods, 100% organic fertilizer from the same device I talked about. So this technology is going to be tested in India in early next year, probably February, March. We're going to be shipping a number of units to some farms in India to test it there. I'm nearly certain that's going to work. If it works, we're going to launch the next green revolution worldwide and now have healthier food, so we don't get sick from all the climate destroying pesticides. This is what is possible. All right, I've got a homework assignment for all of you. You've got to read 2 books. Driving the Driverless Car, which talks about the amazing technologies I described. It covers all of the, it covers everything from artificial intelligence to quantum computing. It tells you what is possible and tells you the dark side of the technologies, because every time I talk about technologies, I see a dark side. The book talks about the good and bad of technologies. It's a must read for all of you if you want to learn about what's possible. And the other book is From Incremental to Exponential. This is a business-oriented book. It's not for everyone. It's for people who want to understand how they can innovate. New methods of innovation. Why is it that some of the companies in Silicon Valley are worth trillions of dollars now? What's their secret? This book teaches you all of those things. All right, with that, let me now turn it over to my host, and we can do some Q&A.